Chapter 37:14. Fire source fruit. The eyes of many people who cultivated fire attributed divine power lit up. Then people began to make exchanges. However, Lu Ming was not interested in any of this. In his opinion, the fire source fruit and sword god crystal were far inferior to the life source grass and heavenly source fruit he had obtained from the dragon clan's mother planet. The sword god crystal was only useful for sword-type origin source secret techniques, and its efficiency was only increased by 50%. The fire source fruit was only useful for fire-attributed divine power, and its efficiency was only doubled. Of course, the duration of these two effects was longer than the life source grass and heavenly source fruit. However, the difference in effectiveness was too great. Firstly, the life source grass and heavenly source fruit had no attribute restrictions. They were useful for divine power of any attribute or origin source secret technique. Secondly, refining one of the life source grass and heavenly source fruit could greatly increase one's divine power of origin or origin source secret technique. It did not require much time. The difference in value between these two items was many times greater. The exchanges continued. However, Lu Ming was not interested in the treasures these people took out. Lu Ming was only interested in two treasures. One was a treasure that contained a large amount of energy. However, Lu Ming had many divine herbs in his possession, enough to last him for a while. In addition, Lu Ming was interested in all kinds of secret techniques. This was also the purpose of his visit. However, no one took out any secret techniques to exchange. After a day, at least a few hundred people had exchanged treasures, but none of them was what Lu Ming wanted. Therefore, Lu Ming decided to step forward himself. "Let me." Lu Ming stood up, and many people looked at him. His palm glowed, and a divine herb appeared in Lu Ming's hand. This is a monarch-grade divine herb. After refining it, it can increase one's cultivation rapidly. It is also very useful for breaking through to the next realm. Moreover, its medicinal effect is 3 times that of divine herbs of the same level. Lu Ming introduced. That was indeed the case. The Dragon Clan's mother planet had been sealed for so many years. The divine herbs produced in those sacred ruins were extremely potent. They were several times more potent than divine herbs of the same level. Hundreds and thousands of fiery gazes gathered on the divine medicine in Lu Ming's hands. After all, most of the people present were divine monarchs. There were very few divine emperors. The effects of this divine medicine were too great for them. "What do you need?" someone asked. "I want secret techniques. 1 stock of divine medicine for 3 secret techniques that I don't have." Lu Ming said. "Exchange secret technique." Everyone was astonished. Similar to Jiang Libang's previous doubts, ordinary people did not have high requirements for secret techniques. They would only cultivate a few auxiliary secret techniques, and mainly cultivate the essence secret techniques. Unless it was a constitution secret technique, or one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. They didn't know why Lu Ming wanted these secret techniques. However, they didn't think too much about it. It was Lu Ming's business if he wanted to exchange so many secret techniques. They only wanted the divine medicine. "I'll switch with you." "I'll do it." Immediately many people shouted. There were at least a few dozen people. "I spoke first." "I'll switch first." "Who said you spoke first?" "Do you have evidence?" "I was the one who spoke first." Dozens of people began to compete fiercely. "Everyone." Lu Ming raised his hand and the scene quieted down. "Everyone, I have more than 1 stock of divine medicine. As long as you have a secret technique, I'll exchange for it," Lu Ming said. Then everyone quieted down. "I'm the first." An old man rushed out and came in front of Lu Ming. He then took out 3 jade tokens and handed them to Lu Ming. "Little brother, there are 3 secret techniques here. Take a look," the old man said. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. He shook his head slightly and said, "I already have the heavenly eye technique. I need a secret technique that I don't have." "Okay, I'll change it." The old man quickly took out another jade token. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. He nodded in satisfaction. Lu Ming didn't have this secret technique. Lu Ming handed the divine medicine to the old man and successfully obtained 3 new secret techniques. After putting away the secret techniques, Lu Ming took out another stock of divine medicine. This stock of divine medicine is about the same as the previous one. I still don't have 3 secret techniques. Lu Ming said. I'll do it. I'll go first. Immediately, a large group of people shouted. Because Lu Ming needed a secret technique that he didn't have. If he was 1 step early, he would benefit. If he was late and the secret technique he took out overlapped with the previous one, he wouldn't be able to exchange it. Lu Ming was speechless. He could only choose for himself. I'll take this, senior. Lu Ming pointed to a middle-aged burly man and successfully exchanged for 3 new types of secret skills. Just like that, Lu Ming used a total of 10 stocks of divine medicine to exchange for 30 new secret techniques. Now Lu Ming had 190 secret techniques that he had cultivated, and 130 secret techniques that he hadn't cultivated yet. But at this time, Lu Ming didn't continue to take out divine medicines to exchange. After all, he also needed divine medicines. His future cultivation couldn't be separated from energy. Lu Ming would keep the rest. However, Lu Ming still had several treasures on him. Life Source Grass and Heavenly Source Fruit. The Life Source Grass and Heavenly Source Fruit weren't useful to Lu Ming's current body. They were useful to his past body. So Lu Ming didn't bring many of them with him. He only brought a small amount of each. He was looking for an opportunity to exchange for some resources. With a thought, a stalk of Life Source Grass appeared. This is the Life Source Grass. Everyone should have heard of it before. Lu Ming didn't introduce it too much. It was impossible for them not to know about it. Sure enough, as soon as Lu Ming opened his mouth, the crowd exclaimed in surprise. Then everyone stared at the Life Source Grass with burning eyes. The Life Source Grass was useful to all kinds of divine force. Its effects were amazing. It was the best of the best treasures to cultivate origin source divine force. I need a stalk of Life Source Grass to exchange for 20 secret techniques that I need. Lu Ming stated his conditions. 20. Everyone looked at each other. Ordinary people wouldn't have too many secret techniques. They couldn't take out 20. Moreover, the secret techniques that Lu Ming needed were the same as the secret techniques that Lu Ming had mastered. He didn't want them. This condition was too difficult. Change your condition. I can use other treasures to exchange with you. A voice sounded. Everyone saw that the one who spoke was the young genius from the heavenly Acrypoid race. His expression was cold, as if he wasn't negotiating with Lu Ming, but giving an order. Everyone was shocked. This was the first time the young genius from the heavenly Acrypoid race had spoken. He must be tempted by the Life Source Grass. Well, the more talented one was, the more tempted they would be to obtain such treasures. The Life Source Grass could save a lot of time. It was too attractive. It could help him to be ahead of the other Sky Prides. Chapter 37:15. Many people sighed. They knew that since the heavenly Acrypoid race's prodigy had spoken, they had no chance of getting the Genesis Grass. Lu Ming dared not to give face to the heavenly Acrypoid race's prodigy. He had to compromise. However, Lu Ming's reaction was beyond everyone's expectations. Lu Ming shook his head and said, I don't need any other treasures. I only need secret skills. 20 secret skills, not one less. These words shook the hearts of the others. Lu Ming actually rejected the heavenly Acrypoid race's prodigy's offer. The heavenly Acrypoid race's prodigy's face was gloomy to begin with. Now it was even gloomier. Brat, do you know who I am? I am from the heavenly Acrypoid race. The heavenly Acrypoid race's prodigy was about to mention his background, but he was interrupted by Lu Ming. I don't care what race you are from. If you don't have any secret skills, shut up. Lu Ming said coldly. Lu Ming did not care what race you were from. He had even killed the 16th ranked Yinyang race back in the dragon race's mother planet. Why would he be afraid of the heavenly Acrypoid race? Many people gasped a breath of cold air. Lu Ming was too daring. He was simply courting death. The heavenly Acrypoid race's prodigy's mouth was half open. Clearly, he hadn't expected that someone on planet Shangchuan would dare to talk back to him like this. Ha ha ha, Huangfang, it seems like he is not giving you face. On the other side, Yu Chang laughed loudly. He was not afraid of the heavenly Acrypoid race. Huangfang's face was extremely ugly, He glanced coldly at Lu Ming and sat down without saying a word. Brother, I'll take your life origin grass. I'll buy some secret techniques in exchange for it. Yu Chang said. Immediately, Yu Chang took out other treasures and divine gems to buy secret skills from others. He gathered 20 secret skills that Lu Ming needed, and exchanged them for the Genesis grass with Lu Ming. Brother, if you have any more Genesis grass or similar treasures, I can use other treasures to exchange them with you. Yu Chang glanced at Lu Ming, looking expectant. No more. Lu Ming shook his head. He still had the Life Genesis grass and Heavenly Yuan fruit, and even Emperor-grade divine herbs, but he had no intention of taking them out. If he exposed too many treasures, he might be targeted by others. Lu Ming was already satisfied with the 50 new secret techniques he obtained this time. The trading continued, and another day passed in the blink of an eye. There weren't any treasures that could move Lu Ming too much. As for the transaction, it was gradually coming to an end. All right, let's end this transaction. 3 years from now, we'll hold another one. You're all welcome. The old man from before announced the end of the trading meet. As the crowd dispersed, Lu Ming and Jiang Libang walked together. This time, Jiang Libang also made 2 transactions and obtained the treasures he needed. He could be considered to have returned from a rewarding journey. On the way, Lu Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. On the other hand, Jiang Libang's expression froze. Because they had been blocked. They were from the Heavenly Locust tribe. Together with 4 burly middle-aged men, Huang Fong stood in front of Lu Ming and the rest. When they saw Lu Ming, the 4 men's figures flashed and surrounded Lu Ming and Jiang Libang. Huang Fong, what do you want? Jiang Libang asked coldly. He had a powerful background, and was not afraid of the Heavenly Locust tribe. Jiang Libang, this matter has nothing to do with you. I'm here to look for this brat. Huang Fong said coldly, then smiled wickedly and looked at Lu Ming. Brat, you've got guts. I'll give you a chance now. Give me your storage ring, kneel down and slap yourself 20 times. Kowtow and admit your mistake and I'll spare your life. Huang Fong's eyes flickered with greed as he stared at the storage ring in Lu Ming's hand. He thought that since Lu Ming could take out a stalk of Life Genesis grass, he most likely still had some left. This made him greedy and his eyes burned with desire. That brat is done for. I knew it. That brat is so arrogant and daring to talk back to the Heavenly Locust tribe's Huang Fong. He's really courting death. A 4th-layer divine monarch has such guts. Haha, he's dead for sure. On the side, many people saw the situation here, and some of them were gloating. Some people were like that. If someone else did something they did not dare to do, they would be unhappy and hope that the person would be unlucky. But in the next moment, they shut up and stared. Because Lu Ming said coldly, scram. Scram. Lu Ming told Huang Fong to scram. Everyone was flabbergasted, even Huang Fong himself was stunned. Even Jiang Libang was dumbfounded. He's dead. This brat is dead for sure. He doesn't know what's good for him. He could have saved his life if he handed over his storage ring, kowtowed, and slapped himself 20 times. But now he's dead for sure. No one can save him. The surrounding people concluded that Lu Ming was dead for sure. The Heavenly Locust tribe was ranked 356th on the list of 10,000 primitive races. This ranking did not seem high, but it was not. The primitive universe was too big. There were countless races and forces. It was like the sands of the Ganges. No one could say for sure. Countless races and forces were scattered throughout the boundless Yorwild's universe. Not to mention the 356th place. Even those that were ranked in the thousands were terrifyingly large clans. They ruled over vast territories and commanded countless living beings. A race like the Heavenly Locust tribe was unimaginably powerful. Not to mention the Heavenly Acrypoid tribe. Just Huang Fong and the 4 burly middle-aged men that he brought with him were far from what Lu Ming could handle. They were all quasi-emperors. Killing Lu Ming would be no different from killing an ant. As expected, Huang Fong's expression was extremely ugly. He did not hide his killing intent at all. Brat, I was merciful and wanted to give you a chance. But you didn't know how to cherish it. Now you're dead. I'll sentence you to death. Huang Fong said coldly. He looked at Lu Ming with disdain. He was high and mighty. With one sentence, he wanted to sentence Lu Ming to death. Idiot. Lu Ming said indifferently. With that, he stepped forward and was about to leave. Huang Fang was only a 6th-level divine sovereign. The 4 middle-aged men were only quasi-emperors. Not long ago, he killed the 130th place winged men. That was 60 quasi-emperors. Why would he care about these people? You're courting death. Huang Fang was about to explode. With a roar, he slashed at Lu Ming with his saber-like palm. The heavenly locust tribe had saber-like arms. His attack was not aimed at Lu Ming's head, but Lu Ming's arm. He did not want Lu Ming to die so easily. He wanted to torture Lu Ming and let Lu Ming die painfully. He wanted to let others know the consequences of offending him. Swish. Lu Ming did not even look at him. He slashed at Huang Fang with his own palm. You overestimate yourself. Seeing Lu Ming slash at him, Huang Fang almost laughed out loud. His eyes were full of mockery. Lu Ming actually dared to meet his saber palm. His palm was evolved from the heavenly locust's front claws. It was sharper and tougher than a real divine weapon. Even a divine weapon would be cut in half by him. Lu Ming was asking for it. Chapter 37:16. It wasn't just Huang Fang. Everyone else thought so too. The heavenly Acrypoid tribe's palm blade was famous throughout the universe. Finally, the 2 palms collided. The result was similar to what everyone had expected. Crack! The sound of an arm breaking rang out, followed by a scream as a figure was sent flying. The only difference was that the person who was sent flying with a broken arm wasn't Lu Ming, but Huang Fang. Huang Fang fell heavily to the ground. One of his arms wasn't just broken, it had completely exploded. His eyes were filled with disbelief and fear. When his palms collided with Lu Ming's, he realized that Lu Ming's palms didn't seem to be made of flesh. They were hundreds of times harder than divine weapons. Everyone else was also dumbfounded, their eyes bulging in disbelief. Putting aside the toughness of his arms, Huang Fang's cultivation base was much higher than Lu Ming's. Huang Fang was a 6th-level divine lord, while Lu Ming was only a 4th-level divine lord. 2 levels higher, but he was defeated by someone 2 levels lower. Attack! Kill him! Kill him for me! Acrypoid Fang roared hysterically. You're courting death. Kill! The 4 middle-aged burly men shouted angrily, charging toward Lu Ming with murderous intent. Lu Ming's face was gloomy. With a thought, a powerful force burst forth from every cell in his body. He then charged toward the 4 burly middle-aged men. Both sides used palm blades at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged more than 10 blows. Continuous explosions rang out. Then both sides separated. The difference was that Lu Ming didn't move from his spot, while the 4 middle-aged men were sent flying. They retreated a few hundred steps before regaining their footing. Their bodies trembled as they spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their arms were trembling non-stop and bleeding. They were completely deformed. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Everyone stared at Lu Ming as if they had seen a ghost. It was as if they were looking at a monster. A 4th-level divine lord had injured 4 quasi-emperors in an instant. Moreover, they were quasi-emperors of the heavenly Acrypoid tribe. Was this a dream? This is unbelievable. Jiang Libang also widened his eyes and stared at Lu Ming in disbelief. Brother Jiang, goodbye. Lu Ming cupped his fists and left. He did not kill Huang Fang and the rest. After all, there were so many people watching. If he killed Huang Fang, the heavenly Acrypoid tribe might seek revenge. It was not easy to gain a new identity. He did not want to be hunted down all over the world. Lu Ming left, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Damn it! Huang Fang glared in the direction Lu Ming had left, his eyes filled with hatred. Lu Ming didn't stay on planet Shangchuan. He tore through the air and left planet Shangchuan. He came to a barren planet and began his seclusion. He had to first master the 150 secret techniques in his possession. Lu Ming was familiar with the process. He cultivated one secret skill after another. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. In these 3 years, Lu Ming had cultivated all 150 secret techniques, fusing them into every cell in his body. There was no doubt that Lu Ming's combat ability had increased. These ordinary secret techniques are limited in power. I wonder how profound the 3,000 ancient secret techniques are. Lu Ming muttered in anticipation. The 3,000 ancient secret techniques were different from ordinary secret techniques. They were profound and unfathomable, and their power was boundless. When cultivated to the peak, they were no weaker than an origin source technique with 9 severed shackles. However, until now, Lu Ming had not encountered any of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. He had not seen their power. Now Lu Ming had already fused 340 secret techniques. After cultivating the secret techniques, Lu Ming took out a divine herb and began to refine it. Lu Ming had stored some energy before, and he felt that it had reached 30%. However, during this time, Lu Ming had used up a lot of energy, so he continued to store it. The divine herb Lu Ming took out was an emperor-grade divine herb. Its medicinal energy was astonishing. After another 2 years, Lu Ming felt that the energy stored in his cells had reached 50%. The potential was astonishing, and it was just waiting for him to excavate it. Of course, this 50% was relative to Lu Ming's current level. When Lu Ming's cultivation level increased in the future, he would need more energy if he wanted to store 50% of his energy. At this time, Lu Ming's heart shook, and a message appeared in the dream god Jade. It was a message from Jiang Libang. Why would Jiang Libang send me a message at this time? Lu Ming pondered. Jiang Libang's message was not very specific. He only said that there was an opportunity, and he wanted to invite Lu Ming along. Lu Ming thought for a moment, and decided to go take a look. Now, Lu Ming's combat power had increased, and he had stored a large amount of energy that needed to be excavated. If he wanted to excavate it quickly, taking a risk was the best way. Taking a risk could not only excavate his potential, but also obtain opportunities. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Lu Ming set off for planet Shangchuan. Planet Shangchuan was not far from the barren planet that Lu Ming was on. Soon Lu Ming arrived at planet Shangchuan and met Jiang Libang. Brother Jiang, what is this opportunity you mentioned? Asked Lu Ming. It's related to the ruins of the Skyleap Divine Nation. Said Jiang Libang. Skyleap Divine Nation. Lu Ming was puzzled. He had never heard of it. Jiang Libang explained. The Heavenly Transcendence Divine Nation was a huge divine nation in the star field a few dozen stellar years ago. It was extremely powerful, and was not weaker than the races on the Great Desolate 10,000 Races list. However, overnight, the Heavenly Transcendence Divine Nation collapsed and was destroyed, disappearing from the world. A powerful force comparable to the primitive 10,000 Races role disappeared overnight? How could that have happened? Lu Ming was a bit shocked. Which of the races on the primitive 10,000 Races role didn't have inheritances for countless years? They had a deep foundation and were incomparably powerful. How could it be so easy to destroy them? But they were destroyed overnight. That was shocking. I don't know. No one knows what happened, but someone speculated. At this point, Jiang Libang stopped. Speculated what? Asked Lu Ming. I can't say. Brother Mu, you can figure it out yourself. As he spoke, Jiang Libang pointed at the sky. Heavenly Palace. 2 words appeared in Lu Ming's mind. Now, I found out through a secret channel that the ruins of the Skyleap Divine Nation are about to appear. Someone has found the entrance to the ruins. If it's true, there should be a lot of treasures left inside. This is an opportunity. Jiang Libang's eyes shone with a fiery light. The treasures left behind by a race comparable to the primitive 10,000 Races role would definitely be shocking. Okay, I'll go with you. Lu Ming nodded and agreed. Okay, we'll set off in half a month. Not only us, but also 3 other forces. Because the entrance was discovered by us, said Jiang Libang. Lu Ming nodded and found a place to stay. Half a month later, they set off for the entrance of the Skyleap Divine Nation. Chapter 37:17. The ruins of the Heavenly Eclipse Divine Nation were located in a special galaxy. This galaxy was shrouded in dense clouds. This galaxy was called the Cloud Mist Galaxy. Lu Ming, Jiang Libang, and a group of experts that Jiang Libang had brought with him appeared outside the Cloud Mist Galaxy. Apart from them, there were also people from 3 other factions. Each side had a large number of people, numbering in the hundreds. So many experts. Lu Ming sensed a little, and discovered that among the 4 forces, most of them were quasi-emperors. a large number of quasi-emperors. The rest were mostly ninth-level divine monarchs. After entering the bustling starry sky, the Taishu dynasty couldn't compare to them. The Taishu dynasty was only a pseudo-universal level faction. They couldn't even be considered a true universal level faction. Compared to the bustling starry sky, the difference was too great. Among the powerful races in the starry sky, quasi-emperors were just cannon fodder. Only true divine emperors were considered experts. However, Lu Ming didn't sense the aura of any divine emperors. Of course, perhaps the divine emperors were too strong for Lu Ming to sense. After all, Jiang Libang didn't say that divine emperors couldn't enter the ruins of the heavenly eclipsed divine nation. So Lu Ming didn't dare to be careless. Let's go in, Jiang Libang said to the other three factions. Soon after, the four factions gathered and entered the cloud mist galaxy. Someone took out a map and followed it. After half a day, they found a huge stone door floating in the air. The stone door looked very old and was filled with the marks of time. However, it hadn't decayed. This is the place. This stone door is the entrance to the ruins of the heavenly eclipsed divine nation. A middle-aged man in luxurious clothes said, "Let's begin." Jiang Libang said. Soon after, the four factions sent out some experts. These were all formation experts. They surrounded the stone door and began to inscribe formation runes. One rune after another entered the stone door. Not long after, runes appeared on the stone door and slithered around like little snakes. Buzz. Suddenly, the stone door trembled slightly and emitted a dazzling light. The stone door slowly opened, revealing a pitch-black passage. "Let's go." Immediately, one of the factions took the lead and rushed in. "Brother Lu, let's go," Jiang Libang shouted and rushed in with his men. Lu Ming followed closely behind. In the blink of an eye, the people from the four major forces disappeared into the tunnel. Lu Ming felt a slight rotation in the void. The next moment, he realized that he was already high up in the sky. A strong gravitational force came, causing his body to fall. His heart skipped a beat, and his muscles trembled slightly. He stabilized his body and floated in mid-air. Sweeping his gaze around, he discovered that Jiang Libang and the others were all floating in the air, sizing them up. Lu Ming also looked down. Below them were strange buildings. These buildings were oval-shaped, with sharp tops that pierced the sky. As far as the eye could see, there were such buildings everywhere. However, many buildings had collapsed. Some had even collapsed or been split in half. Sword marks and saber marks could be clearly seen on the vast earth. Clearly, a great battle had taken place here some time ago. The heavenly transcendence divine nation was destroyed in a single night. It seems like there was an intense battle there, but outsiders don't know about it. Someone sighed. However, some people had already rushed down to the buildings below. The others were worried that others would be the first to rush down, so they also rushed down. This area was very vast. The people of the major forces had spread out to search for buildings and opportunities. Lu Ming also rushed to a building on the side. When he landed on the ground, he realized that these buildings were really huge. Each one was over 1,000 meters tall. Lu Ming entered a building and discovered that there were many statues on both sides of the building. There were a total of 18 statues. However, these statues were just ordinary statues. They didn't seem to have any value. Lu Ming didn't stop and went inside. It was very chaotic inside. There were also statues, but they had already collapsed. It was a mess. Clearly, there had been an intense battle. Lu Ming scanned with his spiritual sense, but didn't find anything valuable. "There's something down there." At this time, a voice sounded. It was Qiuqiu. Qiuqiu wasn't by the side of the past, but by the side of the present to adventure together. Qiuqiu flew out. A few pairs of claws appeared on its round body and scratched out. The rocks on the ground were pushed aside by Qiuqiu, and then an iron rod was revealed. To be precise, it was half an iron rod. The other half had already disappeared. Qiuqiu jumped up excitedly, opened its mouth, and swallowed half of the iron rod in one gulp. "This is a treasure." Lu Ming was curious. "Treasure, it's a treasure," Qiuqiu cried out. Lu Ming also revealed a look of joy, hoping that Qiuqiu's cultivation could improve greatly. During this period of time on the dragon race's mother planet, Lu Ming killed a large number of enemies and obtained countless divine weapons. Most of these divine weapons entered Qiuqiu's stomach. Qiuqiu's cultivation also advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the peak of the 5th-level Divine Lord realm. It wasn't far from the 6th-level Divine Lord realm. There weren't many things that could be called treasures by Qiuqiu. After Qiuqiu ate it, its cultivation would most likely improve greatly, and it might even evolve a corresponding attack method. After Qiuqiu ate it, it turned back into a bracelet and wore it on Lu Ming's hand. The bracelet that Qiuqiu turned into was very common, and there were plenty of them on the streets. He wasn't afraid that others would recognize him based on this. After searching for a while, he didn't find anything and continued to move on to other buildings. Next, Lu Ming searched several buildings but didn't find much. He did find a few damaged weapons, but they weren't called treasures by Qiuqiu. They could only be said to be ordinary. Let's go up and take a look. Lu Ming pondered. Because he had previously discovered that some buildings were built on top of a peak in front of him. Perhaps there would be a big discovery at the center of these buildings. Lu Ming left the buildings and flew towards that peak. Clearly, many people had the same idea as him. They didn't find anything in these buildings, so they all flew towards those buildings on the peak. However, everyone stopped at the foot of the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there was a tall stone pagoda standing there. The stone pagoda looked very shabby, but it emitted a grand and lofty aura. Many people's eyes flickered, wondering if there was a treasure in this stone pagoda. Look, there's blood on the stone pagoda. Suddenly someone shouted. Everyone looked carefully and their hearts shook. Sure enough, there was blood on the stone pagoda. Moreover, it looked like fresh blood, bright red, and even slowly flowing. It looked like it had just been splashed. Moreover, this fresh blood also emitted a terrifying aura. Could it be that this stone pagoda is suppressing something? Someone guessed. Should we move the stone pagoda and take a look? Someone suggested. But the others looked at each other in dismay. This stone pagoda looked very strange. If they moved it and something strange happened, wouldn't they be asking for trouble? Chapter 37:18. Everyone was a little uncertain. If there were treasures in the tower, wouldn't it be a pity if they didn't move it? But if there was something strange, wouldn't it be dangerous? At this time, Lu Ming noticed something strange. When he stared at the blood on the tower, it seemed to emit a dazzling red light. Then, the red light spread, and the world in Lu Ming's eyes became blood red. Then, the world suddenly changed. The location was still the same, but the people had changed. Jiang Libang and the others had disappeared, and countless others had appeared. Kill! Battle cries shook the heavens. Many experts flew out from various buildings and soared into the air, charging towards the sky. Violent rumbles came from the sky. Disloyal people, all of you should die. A cold voice came from the sky. Lu Ming looked toward the sky and saw the clouds churning in the sky. He could vaguely see a few huge figures. They weren't humans, and they were covered by the clouds. He couldn't see their specific appearances. He could vaguely see an existence that looked like a crocodile, and its body was as big as a small mountain. There was also a giant octopus with 8 tentacles that waved around, bringing with them bolts of lightning. As soon as the voice finished speaking, attacks fell from the sky. The lightning bolts were as thick as mountains, and there were also axes chopping down. Immediately, the world was filled with miserable screams. Lightning filled the sky, and axes filled the sky. Those figures that had soared into the sky were directly turned to ashes by the terrifying attacks. Large numbers of experts were killed. The scene was incomparably tragic. Lightning Sea destroys the world. A cold voice came from the sky. Boundless thunder and lightning formed a sea of thunderstorms that pressed down on the ground. Amidst the thunderstorm, there was also a terrifying axe radiance. The sea of lightning enveloped all the buildings, and countless figures exploded and turned to ashes. Disloyal people? If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. The heavenly palace is tyrannical. Sooner or later, it will be destroyed. A sorrowful and indignant voice came from one of the buildings on the peak. An old man appeared. This old man looked very old. His hair was almost falling out, and his face was full of wrinkles. Grief and indignation appeared on his face. He roared and soared into the sky, his body emitting a resplendent golden light. Those who defy the heavenly palace will be killed without mercy. A cold voice came from the clouds. Then, Lu Ming saw the figure that looked like a giant crocodile brandishing a battle axe and slashing down violently. A shocking axe light slashed towards the old man. Boom! The old man and the axe collided, causing a dazzling golden light to erupt. Then the golden light collapsed, and the old man's body fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Today, the Tianyu divine country shall be destroyed. A cold and aloof voice spread throughout the world. Even if I die, I will drag you all down with me. The old man let out a long howl. His entire body was bathed in blood as he once again soared into the sky. However, this time, a stone pagoda appeared in his hand. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. This stone pagoda was exactly the same as the stone pagoda that they had seen previously. Boom! The old man rushed into the clouds with the stone tower in his hand. At this moment, the scene around him changed again. Everything disappeared, and he returned to his previous state. Jiang Libang and the others were still around him. Brother Jiang, did you see something strange just now? Asked Lu Ming. No. Jiang Libang shook his head and curiously asked. Could it be that Brother Lu noticed something strange? Lu Ming looked at the others and didn't see anything strange. It was as if he was the only one who had seen that scene. When I was staring at his blood, I suddenly noticed that the environment had changed. Immediately, Lu Ming recounted the situation that he had seen earlier. There was nothing to hide, so Lu Ming's voice was very loud. Many people heard it. Many people were shocked when they heard it. Could it be that what you saw was a projection of the battle back then? Is this really related to the heavenly palace? Could it be that it was the Heaven Sentinel? Many people's expressions were grave. Heaven Sentinel? Lu Ming was curious. He knew that the heavenly palace had the Heaven Sentinel sword that could suppress the heavens. It was a treasure of the heavenly palace and possessed terrifying power. Back then, the Yale Lord of Heaven had used the Heaven Sentinel sword to break through the defense of the 10,000 dragon seals. But this was the first time Lu Ming had heard of the Heaven Sentinel. However, Jiang Libang and the others seemed to be afraid and didn't say anything. The so-called Heaven Sentinel is just the heavenly palace's executioners. Bone Devil's voice sounded in his knowledge sea. On the surface, the heavenly palace has heavenly soldiers in charge of suppressing the various races of the universe and maintaining the prestige of the heavenly palace. But in the dark, they have cultivated a group of Heaven Sentinels. The so-called Heaven Sentinel is just a group of executioners who are secretly responsible for getting rid of those forces or individuals who have disloyalty to the heavenly palace. Since ancient times, who knows how many forces or individuals have been secretly killed by the Heaven Sentinel. Clearly, this Skypass divine nation was also the same, and was destroyed by the Heaven Sentinel. Bone Devil sneered. So that's how it is. Lu Ming finally understood what he had seen. That huge crocodile and that octopus-like creature were the Heaven Sentinels. And for some unknown reason, the Heavenly Palace thought that the Skypass divine nation was disloyal, and sent out Heaven Sentinels to destroy it overnight, causing it to disappear from the universe. It seems that the bottom of this stone tower is really extraordinary. Could there be a Heaven Sentinel suppressed under it? The blood on the stone tower, could it be the Heaven Sentinel's blood? Let's not touch this stone tower. Everyone felt a lingering fear, and finally decided not to touch this stone tower. Everyone circled around the stone tower, and flew towards the peak. Lu Ming did the same. His speed was very fast, and he arrived at the peak in the blink of an eye and entered a huge palace. Lu Ming saw from the previous scene that this palace was the palace where the old man lived. There were only a few broken statues in the palace. Lu Ming directly walked past them and entered the palace. In the depths of the palace, there was a room with some shelves. On the shelves, there were some jade talismans. Lu Ming picked up a jade talisman, and saw that it was a secret technique. These jade talismans, could they all be secret techniques? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. There were at least 100 jade talismans here. Lu Ming waved his hand and collected them all. Other than the jade talismans, Lu Ming also found a bracelet. The bracelet was made of stone beads, and there were a total of 12 of them. It felt warm to the touch, like jade, but it was incomparably heavy. Lu Ming grabbed it, and felt like he was grabbing 12 mountains. Treasure. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. This was clearly extraordinary. Swish. At this time, a dozen figures charged in. They were experts from another of the 4 superpowers called the Qianli sect. The Qianli sect's experts immediately revealed greedy expressions when they saw the bracelet in Lu Ming's hand. Brat, hand over the bracelet in your hand. Also, hand over everything you obtained just now. A middle-aged man with a sword on his back stared at Lu Ming with a fiery gaze. Chapter 37:19. The burly middle-aged man with a combat sword on his back, and a dozen other people were glaring at Lu Ming. Not only did they want Lu Ming's bracelet, but they also wanted Lu Ming's interspatial ring. There were quite a few shelves here, so they didn't believe there was only one bracelet. The 4 factions all came here first. First come, first served. I came here first, so the things here are naturally mine. Lu Ming said. First come, first served, haha, don't you know the principle of first come first? The middle-aged man with a sword on his back sneered. Of course I know that. Since that's the case, this treasure should belong to me. Lu Ming smiled and put the bracelet into his interspatial ring. Brat, you're courting death. The eyes of the middle-aged man with a sword on his back flashed with cold killing intent. In his view, Lu Ming was playing with him. Lu Ming meant that Lu Ming had become stronger. He was a quasi-emperor, while Lu Ming was a mere 4th-level divine lord. He was stronger than him. If this wasn't playing with him, then what was? Brat, I gave you a chance, but you didn't want it. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The middle-aged burly man with a combat sword on his back shouted coldly. He used his fingers as a sword and pierced toward Lu Ming. A sharp ray of sword chi stabbed at Lu Ming. A casual attack from a quasi-emperor sword cultivator was extremely powerful. The other people from the Qianli sect relaxed. In their view, Lu Ming was dead for sure. If a quasi-emperor wanted to kill a 4th-level divine monarch, there would only be one outcome for this person, and that was death. There would not be a second outcome. In an instant, the sword chi arrived in front of Lu Ming. The middle-aged burly man with a combat sword on his back revealed a sinister smile. It was as if he could see Lu Ming revealing a regretful expression, and then being killed. Unfortunately, he didn't see any regret or panic on Lu Ming's face. Lu Ming's expression hadn't changed at all. Tranquil and indifferent. Just as the sword chi was about to hit Lu Ming's forehead, Lu Ming stretched out 2 fingers and pinched the sword chi. A poof. The sword chi was like a useless wisp of air, directly dispersing without causing any harm to Lu Ming. The other members of the Qianli sect opened their mouths in shock. Obviously, this scene was completely different from what they had imagined. This brat can block senior apprentice brother Lu's attack? How is that possible? I guess he was just lucky. Also, senior brother Lu didn't use much strength in that casual attack. Definitely. These people nodded repeatedly, as if they had found a reason to convince themselves. For them to believe that a 4th-level divine lord could block a quasi-emperor's attack, it was impossible. They didn't want to believe it. Otherwise, wouldn't it mean that they were useless? However, the middle-aged man with the battle sword on his back was not so relaxed. His face turned serious. Only he knew that he had used 30% of his strength just now. 30% of a quasi-emperor's strength, let alone a 4th-level divine lord. Even an 8th-level divine lord would be dead. Even a 9th-level divine lord had to be treated with caution. But Lu Ming had casually blocked it. This was not normal. Brat, you have some strength, but your fate today is already decided. The middle-aged man with a sword on his back said coldly as he drew his sword from his back. Lu Ming blocking his attack didn't make him retreat. Instead, it stimulated his killing intent. If he retreated today, how could he raise his head in front of his junior apprentice brothers? Buzz. The battle sword vibrated, and a terrifying aura erupted. Kill! The middle-aged burly man shouted. Holding the sword with both hands, he dashed out and slashed toward Lu Ming. Sword chi whistled, enveloping Lu Ming's body. If you don't seek death, you won't die. Lu Ming shook his head. He had already shown mercy, wanting the other party to retreat. But since the other party wanted to die, he could only fulfill his wish. Boom. Lu Ming directly punched out. The void shook violently, and the space exploded directly. The horrifying fist force was like a tsunami, and it crushed toward the middle-aged man. Bang! The other party's sword energy directly scattered. The fist landed on the middle-aged man's sword, causing it to shatter like glass. The fist didn't stop and continued to land on the middle-aged man's body. No, the middle-aged burly man let out a horrified and regretful scream. Then his body turned into ashes under the force of Lu Ming's fist. The remaining people of the Qianli sect were completely stunned. A fourth-level divine lord killed a quasi-emperor with a single punch. What was going on? Were they seeing things, or were they dreaming? If it was real, how was it possible? A divine lord. This is a divine lord. He's deliberately pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger to trick us. They couldn't help but have a thought in their minds. Run, run. One of them roared and frantically retreated. The remaining people also reacted and wanted to flee. However, Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. Since he had already attacked, Lu Ming wouldn't let these people off. According to his experience, he had already killed the middle-aged man and offended the Qianli sect. If he let these people leave, the Qianli sect wouldn't let this matter rest. Instead, they would take revenge by sending even stronger experts. Lu Ming had experienced this kind of thing too many times. In order to reduce one potential enemy, these people had to be eliminated. These people weren't good people. If Lu Ming wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't hesitate to kill him. Kill. Lu Ming's cold voice sounded and he launched an attack. With Lu Ming's current strength, these people wouldn't even be able to escape. In less than a minute, the Qianli sect's experts had all died. Lu Ming silently left. Boom. Just at this moment, a terrifying explosion rang out. Heaven and earth trembled. Roar. Then a tyrannical roar rang out. It was like a demon that had been suppressed for countless years was about to come out. What's going on? Lu Ming was startled. He soared into the sky and looked into the distance. The others did the same. They all flew into the sky and looked in the direction of the roar. It's that stone tower. Damn it, someone touched that stone tower. Someone roared. As expected, there were many more people at the stone tower. There were at least 1,000 of them. The Sky Locust race, the Frost Moon Vine race. Lu Ming's gaze moved. Among these people, he immediately saw the figures of the Sky Locust race and the Frost Moon Vine race. The Locust Fong he had met at the trade fair was always there. Chapter 37:20. The stone pagoda was moved away by a burly man from the Heavenly Locust tribe. Under the original stone tower, a dazzling light was emitted. ZZ bolts of lightning shot out from the bottom of the stone tower. Roar! Another terrifying roar came out, shaking the heaven and earth violently. Not good. There's an expert suppressed under the stone tower. Quickly release him. Hurry. At this moment, people from the Heavenly Locust tribe, the Frost Moonvine tribe and a few other forces shouted in shock. The burly man from the Heavenly Locust tribe wanted to put the stone pagoda back, but it was too late. Thunderous roars filled the sky. From the place where the stone pagoda had been suppressing, a few tentacles stretched out. They looked like tentacles of an octopus. Each tentacle was extremely huge, reaching over 100 meters long and covered in lightning. The tentacles swept across, and huge thunderbolts burst out. Many people were enveloped by the lightning. They didn't even have time to scream before their bodies were reduced to ashes. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were killed. Regardless of whether it was 8th level Divine Lord, 9th level Divine Lord, or Divine Sovereign, it was all the same. Instant kill. Retreat, quickly retreat. Huang Fong and Yu Chang retreated hastily under the protection of numerous experts. The burly man from the Heavenly Acrypoid race who had moved the stone pagoda hurriedly threw it down and retreated. Disloyal people kill. A cold and tyrannical roar was heard. Then a gigantic octopus appeared. The octopus floated in the air and waved its 8 tentacles. Lightning filled the sky as it charged toward the crowd. Some of the lightning bolts even charged towards Lu Ming and the others. Damn it! Why are the Heavenly Locust race and the Frozen Moon Vine race here? On Lu Ming's side, some people roared and fled in all directions. If we can find the entrance to Tianyu God Country, others can naturally find it as well. Let's go. Everyone fled in all directions to avoid the lightning attacks. However, One of them was struck by lightning and turned into ashes. Flesh, I need flesh. The octopus seemed to have woken up from a dream. It finally understood the situation. Greed and desire shone in its eyes as it charged toward the heavenly locust tribe and the icy moonvine tribe. His speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he caught up with them. Bastard, you're courting death. An angry roar came from the heavenly Acrypoid tribe. Then, an elder from the heavenly Acrypoid tribe shot up into the sky, and runes appeared all over his body. As the runes scattered, a terrifying aura burst out from them. God King, this is definitely the aura of a God King. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. A divine emperor from the heavenly Acrypoid race had come in, but he had concealed his chi with a talisman. These divine emperors seemed to be afraid of something, which was why they had sealed their cultivation with a sealing technique. If the heavenly Acrypoid race was like this, the other forces would probably do the same. Swish, the god emperor of the heavenly Acrypoid race transformed into his true form, a giant locust, and rushed toward the octopus. The sharp claws of the heavenly Acrypoid tribe were like divine blades as they slashed at the octopus, colliding with the thunderbolts of the octopus. There was a huge explosion in the area that destroyed the heavens and the earth. After a few moves, the heavenly Acrypoid race expert retreated. However, he was blocked by the heavenly Acrypoid race expert. Everyone, if we don't act now, when are we going to? This octopus has been suppressed for many years. It doesn't have much strength left. Let's kill it together, otherwise, we'll all be killed. The heavenly Acrypoid race's divine emperor roared. Kill! The octopus roared. Its 8 tentacles were incomparably huge, extending and sweeping in all directions. The suckers on the octopus's tentacles released a terrifying suction force. Many people screamed in fear as they were sucked into the suckers. Then they disappeared into the suckers. Not even their bones were left behind. Attack! Let's kill this octopus together. A few angry roars sounded. A figure rushed out from the direction of the icy moonvine race. This person's body was covered with many talismans, which were also sealing talismans, sealing his own chi. Boom! The sealing talismans dispersed and a divine emperor's chi burst out. At the same time, several other forces such as the Qianli sect and Jiang Libang's forces also had divine emperors break out of their seals, releasing their chi. A total of 7 divine emperors rushed toward the octopus. Boom! Boom! Dazzling divine light burst out, and powerful waves of chi swept across half the sky, creating a terrifying explosion. A battle between divine emperors was incomparably terrifying. Others didn't dare to get close, so they all retreated far away. Lu Ming was extremely fast. In a few flashes, he had distanced himself from the octopus. These are divine emperors? I'm not their match. Lu Ming's expression was grave. Although he could easily kill quasi-emperors, the difference between quasi-emperors and divine emperors was too great. No matter how strong he was, he still wasn't a match for divine emperors, even if they were the lowest level of divine emperors. Only divine emperors could participate in this battle. Those below divine emperors had all retreated far away. Lu Ming also quickly flew away, leaving this place. In any case, he had pretty much explored this place. Lu Ming had obtained some secret techniques, as well as a bracelet whose effects he didn't know. It had been worth it. A moment later, Lu Ming was already far away from that place. Lu Ming could no longer feel the fluctuations of the battle there. Lu Ming continued flying forward. Soon he arrived at a primitive forest. The forest was extremely dense. Ancient trees stretched as far as the sky. Lu Ming stood in the air, watching from a distance. He saw the shadow of a huge building in the forest. If there was a building, then there might be an opportunity. Lu Ming carefully flew into the forest. He didn't see anything strange along the way. There were only flourishing plants in this forest. There were no animals. Lu Ming quickly arrived at the center of the forest. There really were a large number of buildings here, but they had all collapsed. Many of them were completely deformed. They had clearly experienced an intense battle and exploded. Suddenly Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. He saw an incomparably huge skeleton. Its flesh had already rotted, leaving behind only a skeleton. Its bones were sparkling and translucent, more exquisite than the most exquisite jade. He couldn't see what kind of race it was. It looked like a tiger, but it also looked like a lion. But there was a single horn on its head that pointed straight to the sky. It was incomparably sharp, even sharper than a divine sword. But what attracted Lu Ming's attention was each of its joints. In every joint of this skeleton, there were round pearls as white as jade. Bone bead. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. This was a special race. Under special conditions, the corpse would condense bone beads after it died. It gathered a large amount of the life essence of this creature when it was alive. It was a top-grade treasure in the universe. He didn't expect that this creature would actually form bone beads. Even from a distance, Lu Ming could feel the vast life energy in the bone beads. Although Lu Ming had a lot of divine herbs on him, which would be enough for a short period of time, it was naturally better to have more of such treasures. As Lu Ming's cultivation improved, his energy consumption would become more and more astonishing. The divine herbs on hand were simply not enough. Chapter 37:21. Lu Ming didn't immediately collect the bone bead. Instead, he sent out his spiritual sense to investigate the surrounding area. Spiritual sense came from the soul. Now that Lu Ming's soul was spread to every cell in his body, his spiritual sense was also coming from every cell in his body. It was very calm. There was nothing strange and there were no living creatures. Lu Ming didn't sense any danger. Lu Ming was relieved. With a flash of his body, he headed toward the skeleton. When Lu Ming approached the skeleton, he suddenly felt a sense of danger. Every cell in his body trembled slightly. There's danger. Retreat. Lu Ming's figure retreated rapidly. At this moment, the shadow cast by the skeleton suddenly moved. A shadow stretched out like a javelin, stabbing toward Lu Ming at a shocking speed. Block! Lu Ming sent out a punch. But that shadow was not only fast, but it was also unpredictable. When it approached Lu Ming's fist, it twisted and went around Lu Ming's fist, stabbing toward Lu Ming's chest. Not good. Lu Ming cried out inwardly. In an instant, his body released a dazzling light. This was a defensive secret art he had fused into his cells. Over 50 kinds of defensive secret arts erupted at once. However, these defensive secret arts were unable to block the shadow's attack. They were directly pierced through. With a pft sound, a bloody hole appeared in Lu Ming's chest. Lu Ming's body flew backward, crashing into and breaking a few trees with a diameter of more than 10 meters. What a powerful attack! It even included a spiritual attack. Lu Ming felt a burning pain in his chest. His expression was grave. His secret art didn't have much of an effect on that shadow's attack. The reason was because it contained a powerful spiritual attack. It had directly pierced through his secret art's defenses. His chest had been completely pierced through. There was a bloody hole in his chest, and so was his heart. However, although Lu Ming's body was similar to an ordinary person's, he no longer had any vital points. There was no difference between the major organs, the brain, and the ordinary muscles of the hands and feet. The potential in his cells erupted, and his wounds healed rapidly. As for the soul attack, his soul had already been dispersed to every cell in his body. The places that had been attacked just now had indeed suffered heavy damage. However, his soul had been split into 60 trillion parts, so these attacks were harmless. The soul power in the other cells was constantly replenished to the places that were attacked, and the souls in the places that were attacked were rapidly recovering. In an instant, Lu Ming's wound healed. What kind of attack or creature is this? Lu Ming's gaze was fixed on the shadow under the white bones. Previously, Lu Ming thought that this was the shadow cast by White Bone, but now it seemed that it was not that simple. Or rather, there was some strange creature hiding under the shadow of the white bones. Lu Ming looked at it carefully, and was still unwilling to leave. The life energy of that kind of bone pearl was too abundant. Its value was definitely above emperor-grade divine medicine. It was extremely rare and hard to come by. I need to get it as quickly as possible. Lu Ming revealed a resolute look. Then his body shook and he dashed out, pouncing on Baigu. The instant he charged, all the speed secret arts he had fused with his cells erupted. This caused Lu Ming's speed to explode. He was like a bolt of lightning as he charged at White Bone. However, just as Lu Ming approached White Bone, the shadow below began to rapidly wriggle. Then 5 or 6 black shadows shot at Lu Ming. Each one of them was like a javelin, but their speed was shocking. Dodge. Lu Ming's heart shook, and he quickly changed his position to dodge the javelin attacks. However, the shadow suddenly began to rapidly expand. It spread along the ground and rapidly grew, enveloping everything within 100 miles. Then countless javelins appeared from all directions and stabbed at Lu Ming. Not good. Lu Ming's expression changed. He knew that he had underestimated his opponent. He had underestimated this shadow. This shadow's power was beyond his imagination. From all directions, there were at least hundreds of shadow javelins stabbing towards him, densely covering every direction. Even if Lu Ming wanted to dodge, he couldn't. He could only break. Break. Lu Ming roared. His body began to emit a resplendent light, making him look like a sun. His fists constantly punched out, and one fist energy after another exploded in a certain direction. At the same time, he also used many offensive secret arts. Divine Dragon Aspect Art. 9 dragons roar the ice chain, 9 chains like long snakes dancing in the air. 9 Chi Sword Art. Sword art unhindered, all kinds of attacks attacked those shadow javelins together. This space exploded, releasing intense rumbling sounds. Under this incomparably powerful power, the shadow javelin's spiritual attacks were somewhat affected. Some of them were distorted, and some of them were slowed down. But it was still difficult to block them all. These shadow attacks were still stubbornly advancing. Blood splattered everywhere. More than 10 wounds appeared on Lu Ming's body instantly. It was hideous and terrifying. Lu Ming circulated all his strength to recover. Then he took a step and soared into the sky. But it was already too late. At this moment, that shadow was like a sphere, completely enveloping everything within 100 miles. Whoosh! Shadow javelins appeared above his head, stabbing at Lu Ming. Lu Ming resisted with all his strength, but he was still hit, and a few more wounds appeared on his body. I can't continue like this. I have to charge out. Otherwise, even if I have a taboo body, I'll be exhausted to death by this monster. Lu Ming's thoughts rapidly turned. Although his recovery speed was extremely fast, he could still recover no matter how heavy his injuries were. But he needed time, and he needed energy. Although he had stored up a large amount of energy before, and he felt that he had around 50% of it left, his energy consumption was extremely shocking. At this moment, he felt that his energy was rapidly being consumed. So he couldn't be trapped here. He had to charge out. Charge! Lu Ming clenched his teeth. Staring in one direction, he quickly charged out. At the same time, his fists were constantly punching out. All kinds of secret arts were constantly unleashed. But his body didn't stop. The result of this was that he was constantly being hit. More and more wounds appeared on his body. His entire body was dyed red with blood. But he didn't care. He continued charging. He wasn't an ordinary person. If an ordinary person suffered such a heavy injury, their combat power would be greatly reduced, and they would be in danger. But he wouldn't. As long as he could charge out, no matter how heavy his injuries were, they could be healed. Finally, Lu Ming reached the edge of the shadow barrier. In front of him, he was blocked by a black shadow barrier. Boom. Lu Ming continuously punched out. Several of his fists landed on the shadow barrier, but it didn't budge. Chapter 37:22. His berserk attack landed on the shadow light curtain. The shadow light curtain didn't budge. It had no effect. Lu Ming paled. His attack was actually unable to break through the shadow light curtain. At this time, the shadow light curtain counterattacked. Javelins appeared on the light curtain and shot towards Lu Ming. Many wounds immediately appeared on Lu Ming's body, penetrating from front to back. Lu Ming coughed up blood, but his gaze was still resolute. He hadn't lost hope. Taboo energy! Lu Ming shouted. His cells began to tremble. Strands of taboo energy began to spread. This time, the taboo energy didn't hide within his body. Instead, it appeared. A layer of transparent energy covered Lu Ming's fist. Boom. Lu Ming once more punched the shadow light curtain. A shocking scene appeared. Lu Ming's fist directly pierced through the shadow light curtain. A miserable scream came from the shadow light curtain. And then it began to rapidly squirm. Boom. Lu Ming threw out a few more punches and screams could be heard again. The shadow screen wriggled even more violently before shrinking rapidly. Naturally, the encirclement around Lu Ming was broken. I really didn't expect the taboo energy to be able to restrain this shadow. I have to go. Lu Ming didn't dare to stop in the slightest. He crazily charged forward. In the blink of an eye, he was 100 miles away. But when he turned back, his pupils shrank. That shadow shrunk and actually turned into a pitch-black creature. This life form looked like a tiger, but it wasn't. It had a single horn on its head, and it was extremely similar to the skeleton's body. Could it be that this shadow evolved from the skeleton's body after it died? A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind, and he continued to dash forward. That one-horned shadow beast only icily looked at Lu Ming. It didn't chase after him. After a while, its body began to fade, and it merged back into the skeleton's shadow. Lu Ming continued to run. As he ran, his injuries healed at an extremely fast rate. In just a few minutes, the wounds on his body had disappeared. The internal wounds were also recovering quickly. My strength has increased again. I'm not far from 5th level Divine Lord. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He discovered that along with the recovery of his injuries, his cultivation was also rising rapidly. He was already close to peak 4th level Divine Lord. This was because he had gone through an intense battle. After being injured, his cells had repaired themselves and released the potential within. The more I get beaten up, the stronger I become. Then wouldn't I become a masochist in the future? Lu Ming was speechless. The cultivation method of this taboo power was really strange. Of course, if he just stood there and let the other party attack him, it wouldn't be of much use. Only in a truly intense battle, a battle of life and death, could one's potential be truly stimulated. When Lu Ming rushed out of the forest, his injuries were basically healed. It's that brat. Stop him. At this moment, a shout rang out. In front, a group of people were chasing after Lu Ming. The one leading them was actually Huangfang. These people were from the heavenly Acrypoid race. There were at least 20 experts rushing towards Lu Ming. They were all quasi-emperors. How unlucky. Lu Ming was speechless. He had just rushed out of the forest when he encountered the heavenly Acrypoid race. Huangfang's face was gloomy as he stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Huangfang, I spared your life back then. If you don't know when to stop, you'll have to bear the consequences. Lu Ming said coldly. You'll have to bear the consequences. How dare you threaten me? Who do you think you are? You're just a bug. Crush him. Huangfang roared, his face contorted. Lu Ming actually dared to mention that matter in front of him. This was simply poking at his sore spot, making him go crazy. Kill. The 20 quasi-emperors transformed into their locusts. Their claws were like blades as they attacked Lu Ming. You're courting death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. His killing intent was like a blade. He had gone around Huangfang previously to avoid offending the heavenly Acrypoid race, and being harassed by them. Originally, he had thought that with the vastness of the primitive universe, he would not cross paths with Huangfang again. He also thought that the heavenly Acrypoid race would not go after him just because he had beaten up Huangfang. But he did not expect to meet Huangfang in the ruins of the heavenly eclipsed divine kingdom. Moreover, Huangfang looked like he wanted to kill him. Lu Ming decided not to hold back anymore. Swish. 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 Lu Ming's palm was like a blade. He activated the offensive secret technique in his palm, causing Lu Ming's palm to become incomparably sharp. With a slash of his palm, the void split open. 2 quasi-emperors of the heavenly Acrypoid race were killed before they could even scream. Now Lu Ming had integrated even more secret techniques into his body. His cultivation had also reached the peak of the 4th layer Divine Lord realm. His battle strength had increased. Killing quasi-emperors was like killing chickens for him. After killing the 2 quasi-emperors of the heavenly Acrypoid race, Lu Ming turned around and swept his palm. A blinding blade light shot out from his palm. 3 quasi-emperors of the heavenly Acrypoid race were cut in half at the waist. Destructive energy exploded from their bodies, destroying their souls. 5 quasi-emperors were killed in the first exchange. They could not even withstand a single blow. The other quasi-emperors felt a chill run down their spines. Their faces were pale, and they did not dare to attack. They quickly retreated. However, since Lu Ming had already killed the experts of the heavenly acripoid race, he would not hold back. It was best to kill all of them. Kill. Lu Ming roared and chased after the quasi-emperors of the heavenly acripoid race. Bastard, how dare you! With a furious roar, a terrifying aura pressed down on Lu Ming. Boom. Lu Ming felt as if he had been hit by a planet. His body shook violently, and he could not help but retreat. Divine Emperors. Lu Ming's expression was extremely grave. An elder stepped out from beside Huang Fengli. A terrifying aura spread out from his body. It was as deep as the sea, unfathomable. Kill this bastard. Huang Fengli shouted. Boom. The elder's aura became even more terrifying. He took a step forward and charged at Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. I miscalculated. Lu Ming frowned. Previously, the heavenly acripoid race's divine emperor had fought against the octopus. Lu Ming had seen it before. It was not this person. Therefore, Lu Ming had been careless and did not retreat immediately. Clearly, there was more than one divine emperor from the heavenly acripoid race. Retreat. Without hesitation, Lu Ming retreated and dashed into the forest. You want to escape from my hands? Young man, you must be dreaming. The elder sneered and stepped forward. He stretched out a withered hand and grabbed downwards. Rumble. Heaven and earth shook violently. 9 saber lights appeared in the sky and slashed down on Lu Ming. Open. Lu Ming bellowed and unleashed all his power. The battle word incantation increased his combat power by 5 times to the maximum. Chapter 37-23. Lu Ming exerted all his strength. He activated the battle incantation, increasing his combat power by 5 times. He made dozens of moves consecutively. Dang dang dang, Lu Ming's attack hit the saber gleam in front of him. It was as if he had hit a metal saber, and there was a loud explosion. Crack. Then cracks appeared on the saber gleam. The cracks were densely packed. With Lu Ming's final blow, the saber gleam crumbled into pieces. Lu Ming's figure shot forward. This brat! The divine emperor's pupils shrank, revealing a look of disbelief. He never thought that a mere 4th-level divine lord could actually break one of his blade lights. This made killing intent flash explosively in his eyes. He was a dignified divine emperor, but his saber light had been broken by a 4th-level divine lord. What face did he have left? Die. The elder of the divine emperor realm shouted coldly. He was getting serious. He pressed his palms and the remaining 8 saber gleams shone brightly. Their power increased tremendously as they slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's speed was extremely fast. In an instant, he had already covered a distance of thousands of miles. However, the elder of the divine emperor realm was even faster. His saber radiance covered tens of thousands of miles and shrouded Lu Ming in it. There was no way to escape. Break! Lu Ming roared, attacking with all his strength. He wanted to break the saber light that was slashing down on him. Boom! Intense rumbling sounds erupted, and powerful energy overflowed in all directions. The forest was torn apart, and ancient trees continuously exploded. In the end, Lu Ming managed to block the saber light. But this time, the saber light was even stronger than before. Although Lu Ming managed to block it, he was injured. Bloody scars appeared on his body. They were all caused by the saber light's energy. Blood flowed freely. The bones in his hand were cracked, and his bones were clearly visible. However, Lu Ming had only blocked 1 saber light. There were still 7 more above him. Divine emperors are truly powerful. Lu Ming's expression was grave. He definitely couldn't face them head-on. He was still far from being able to do so. Lu Ming activated all of his agility and speed secret techniques, raising his speed to the extreme. Swish. Swish. His figure flashed rapidly. It was as if there were figures all over the mountain. In the end, a few saber lights missed their target and slashed into the ground. A few 100,000 miles long cracks appeared on the ground and went deep into the ground. However, there were still a few saber lights that were not blocked. No matter how Lu Ming dodged, it seemed to lock onto him. In the end, Lu Ming was hit. His body flew out like a cannonball, breaking a large number of trees. Pain, burning pain. Lu Ming's body was almost split in half. It could be said that he had been split into 2 halves, no 3 halves. This was because his body had been completely split apart after being hit by the two blade auras. Only a small amount of muscle was left to hold his body together. All of the cells in his body were constantly surging with energy. Lu Ming's body quickly recovered. Those muscles were wriggling crazily like small snakes, connecting his body back together. In just a few breaths, Lu Ming's body had been reconnected. He ran madly towards the depths of the forest. He was no match for a divine emperor. It would be difficult for him to even escape. If he wanted to escape, he would need external help. Lu Ming thought of that skeleton, that shadow of a creature. What kind of monster is this? The people of the heavenly acrypoid race saw this scene, and their hearts beat violently. Lu Ming had been hit by a divine emperor consecutively. His body had been split apart. If it had been someone else, they would have been dead. However, Lu Ming was actually fine. His recovery ability was simply terrifying. It was ridiculously strong. In just a few breaths, he had recovered a lot from his serious injuries. Even the divine emperor realm old man's heart beat violently. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Chase! The elder of the divine emperor realm shouted coldly. He stepped out and chased after Lu Ming madly. Let's chase him together, don't let him escape. Huang Fang roared and led the experts of the heavenly acrypoid race to chase after Lu Ming. Lu Ming burst out with his maximum speed, rushing towards the skeleton with all his strength. While rushing, he also had to dodge the divine emperor realm old man's attacks. On the way, Lu Ming was hit several times and was heavily injured. Fortunately, Lu Ming had a taboo body, so he managed to survive. I'm here. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He finally saw the skeleton. He did not hesitate to rush towards the skeleton. That's a bone pearl. The divine emperor realm old man's eyes lit up. He did not hesitate to rush towards the skeleton. At the same time, he waved his hand and released a few terrifying blade lights towards Lu Ming. At this moment, the shadow under the skeleton wriggled violently and a dozen shadow javelins shot out. Most of them were aimed at the divine emperor realm old man. Only a few of them were aimed at Lu Ming. This was because the elder at the divine emperor realm was much more threatening than Lu Ming. Boom boom boom, the shadow javelins hit the blade lights and broke through them. They continued towards the divine emperor realm old man. The divine emperor realm old man's expression changed. He waved his hand madly and a terrifying attack broke out, blocking the shadow javelins. On the other hand, Lu Ming covered his fists with taboo strength and blocked the shadow javelins. Roar! The shadow under the skeleton roared furiously. Then, the shadow wriggled violently and covered a radius of 100 li. Whoosh 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 whoosh, there were at least a few hundred shadow javelins in all directions, stabbing towards Lu Ming and the divine emperor realm old man. Of course, most of them were aimed at the divine emperor realm old man. The divine emperor realm old man roared furiously and tried his best to resist. The shadow javelins contained a soul attack. Even he had to be careful. As for Lu Ming, he charged forward with all his might. He opened up a path with the taboo force and rushed to the front of the shadow light curtain. He broke the shadow light curtain with one punch. With a flash, he dashed out of the light curtain and ran away. Damn it! The divine emperor realm old man roared furiously and tried his best to resist the shadow javelins. He rushed towards the direction where Lu Ming had escaped. However, when he reached the place where Lu Ming had been, the shadow light curtain had already healed. Boom! The divine emperor realm old man slashed the shadow light curtain with his blade. The shadow light curtain shook violently, but it did not break immediately. Break! Break! The divine emperor realm old man roared. His divine strength soared to the sky and a vast blade light pierced through the sky. In the end, under the divine emperor realm old man's torrential attacks, the shadow light curtain shrunk and turned into a black creature with a horn on its head. At first glance, one could tell that this creature was not real. Its body was slightly distorted. The divine emperor realm old man looked around, but did not see Lu Ming's figure. Damn it! The divine emperor realm old man roared furiously, his face pale. Although he had managed to break through the shadow barrier, he had also suffered some injuries. His soul had been injured. Chapter 37-24. The heavenly acrypoid race's divine emperor realm elder's face turned ugly. He had suffered a great loss this time. Not only did he fail to kill Lu Ming, But his soul was also injured. An injury to one's soul was very troublesome. Roar! The pitch-black single-horned creature roared and charged towards the Divine Emperor Realm Elder. Bastard! The Divine Emperor Realm Elder roared and fought with the creature with his saber. At this moment, Huang Feng and his men finally arrived. Where is that bastard? Huang Feng did not see Lu Ming's figure and roared. Then he turned and saw the skeleton and the bone pearl. That's the bone pearl, such rich life energy, it's mine. Huang Feng revealed a greedy expression and charged towards the skeleton with his men. Don't come over, back off. The heavenly Acrypoid race's Divine Emperor Realm Elder shouted, but it was too late. Swoosh 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 on the ground. A shadow spear pierced towards the heavenly Acrypoid race. Puff 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 in an instant, more than 10 heavenly Acrypoid race experts were pierced, their souls destroyed and they died on the spot. If Huang Feng did not have someone protecting him, he would have died. Retreat, retreat. Huang Feng roared and retreated frantically. The rest of the heavenly Acrypoid race also retreated frantically. At the same time, the Divine Emperor Realm Elder attacked with all his might, stopping the single-horned creature's attack, and allowing Huang Feng and his men to escape. They did not dare to come close again. The Divine Emperor Realm Elder and the single-horned creature exchanged more than 10 moves. The Divine Emperor Realm Elder was at a disadvantage. His soul was injured and his face was pale. He was careless and was hit by a shadow spear. A bloody hole appeared in his body. The Divine Emperor Realm Elder roared and fought his way out of the encirclement, retreating unwillingly. The single-horned creature glanced coldly at Huang Feng and his men, but did not chase after them. Where is that bastard? Huang Feng asked. He was referring to Lu Ming. I was entangled by the shadow and that bastard took the chance to escape. Don't let me see him again. I will kill him. The Divine Emperor Realm Elder shouted coldly. He's lucky. Huang Feng said reluctantly. Then his gaze shifted as he said, we can't give up on those bone pearls. I've already sent out the news. Once the other experts arrive, we'll hunt down that shadow creature together. This time, there was more than one Divine Emperor from the heavenly Acrypoid race. The people from the heavenly Acrypoid tribe came to the outskirts of the forest and waited. As for Lu Ming, he had already found a secluded place to cultivate and recover. Previously, he had been injured by the shadow and the Divine Emperor Realm Old Man. If it had been someone else, he would have died at least 10 times. However, he had managed to survive. All the muscles and bones in his body were wriggling at an astonishing speed, recovering. It did not take long for his body to be completely healed, and not the slightest wound could be seen on his body. The potential of each of his cells was stimulated. Lu Ming's body was filled with surging energy. This energy was then absorbed by the taboo force, strengthening the taboo force. Every single cell in his body was becoming tougher and stronger. When these cells gathered together, Lu Ming's body became even stronger. Boom! After the aura on Lu Ming's body reached a critical point, it suddenly soared and rushed to another height. Breakthrough! Lu Ming's cultivation base had broken through again, reaching the 5th layer of the Divine Lord Realm. In such a short time, Lu Ming's cultivation base had broken through from the 3rd layer of the Divine Lord Realm to the 5th layer of the Divine Lord Realm. This speed was simply inconceivable. Of course, this was also in exchange for Lu Ming's injuries. However, the energy consumption is also shocking. I'm only left with a little more than 10%. Lu Ming felt the energy in his body and sighed. Previously, it was equivalent to 50%. This was in exchange for refining 2 Emperor-grade divine herbs. In just a short while, he had used up 30%. The Emperor-level divine medicine was very useful even for divine emperors. Its medicinal efficacy was extremely strong. However, Lu Ming had consumed more than 1 stalk of medicinal efficacy, yet he had only broken through 1 level of cultivation. It could be seen that Lu Ming needed a huge amount of energy to cultivate. It was even more than the energy he had used to cultivate the 11 types of divine power. But the harvest was also huge. After breaking through by 1 layer, Lu Ming's fighting strength would increase explosively. After a short time, Lu Ming's aura stabilized. With my current fighting strength, even the weakest 1st layer of the Divine Lord Realm isn't enough. It's barely enough. Lu Ming pondered. That Divine Lord Realm old man from before was probably only at the first layer of the Divine Lord Realm, but his fighting strength was already terrifying. If it weren't for Lu Ming's tenacious vitality, he wouldn't have been able to escape. Even if he had broken through now, he still wasn't his opponent. I wonder what that bracelet does. Let's try it out. It's not bad if it can increase my fighting strength. Lu Ming thought of the bracelet he had obtained before. With a thought, the bracelet appeared in his hand. It was incomparably heavy. Lu Ming held it in his hand as if he was holding 12 mountains. Let's see if I can refine it. Lu Ming's heart stirred. The taboo power slowly flowed into the bracelet. Once it flowed into the bracelet, it encountered a strong resistance. It was the spiritual will left behind by the previous owner of the bracelet. But when that spiritual will came into contact with the forbidden strength, it was as easy as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Forbidden strength is really easy to use. Lu Ming smiled. That bracelet had been preserved for such a long time, but it was still full of spirituality. It was definitely extraordinary. The previous owner of the bracelet must have been extremely strong. The spiritual will left behind by such an existence was definitely not weak. If he used ordinary divine power, it would be very difficult to destroy it. Even if he could, it would take a long time. But now, in just a short time, the spiritual will of the bracelet had been destroyed. After that, Lu Ming used his forbidden strength to leave a mark on the bracelet. Then he dripped a drop of blood on it. That way, the bracelet was completely under Lu Ming's control. Let's try it. Lu Ming activated the forbidden power and poured it into the bracelet. Buzz. The bracelet trembled slightly and released a dazzling light. Then one of the stone beads flew out and rapidly grew in size. Then a terrifying power came out of the stone bead. Boom. Down below, ancient trees exploded. Many stones also exploded. The ground kept sinking. In just a moment, a crater 100 miles wide and 100 meters deep appeared on the ground. Gravity, what powerful gravity! Lu Ming discovered that the energy coming from the stone bead was gravity. The incomparably powerful gravity directly pressed down on the ground. Continue. Lu Ming continued to use his forbidden strength. Then another stone bead flew out. Boom. The ground kept exploding and sinking. The gravity was 10 times stronger than before. Chapter 37:25. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He realized that when he used 2 stone pearls together, the gravitational force was 10 times stronger than when he used only 1 stone pearl. In that case, the power would be very terrifying. Lu Ming reckoned that even a quasi-emperor would not be able to withstand the pressure and would die. Even a cultivator of the first godly emperor layer would be greatly affected. 2 stone pearls are already so powerful. What about 3, 4, 5, 12? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He wanted to give it a try. He continued to use his forbidden energy into the stone pearls. But this time the stone pearls didn't react at all. Little boy, you're too weak. You can't use more stone pearls. You can only use 2 at most. If you want to use more, you need to become stronger. Guemo reminded him. Lu Ming sighed. As expected, he couldn't rely on just one treasure to become invincible. Treasures needed cultivation to be used. Everything depended on one's own strength. However, Lu Ming was already satisfied that he could use 2 stone pearls. If they worked together, his strength would increase tremendously. Let's go and see how the heavenly Acrypoid race is doing. Lu Ming thought. The heavenly Acrypoid race and the shadow were fighting. Lu Ming was curious to see who would win. Maybe both sides would be injured. Lu Ming didn't mind attacking them sneakily. Lu Ming restrained his aura and headed in the direction of the skeleton. Lu Ming came to a spot not far away from the skeleton quietly. He found a hidden place to hide and then looked into the distance. It seems like the heavenly Acrypoid race has been defeated. Lu Ming took a look and gave a soft cry of surprise. The skeleton was still lying there. The bone pearls were still there. They hadn't been taken away. There were many corpses of locusts around. Each of them was a few meters long. It was obvious that the heavenly Acrypoid race had died here. The heavenly Acrypoid race had obviously been defeated. It's a pity that I didn't see the scene where both sides were injured. But I can't miss these bone pearls. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He still wanted to get those bone pearls. His taboo power was able to restrain the shadow creature. Now that he had the power of the stone pearls, he might be able to obtain those bone pearls if he planned well. Lu Ming started to ponder, wanting to find a way to obtain those bone pearls. Suddenly his heart stirred, and his gaze looked into the distance. He felt that there were a large number of experts approaching. The heavenly locust race is here again. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Then he retracted his aura to the extreme. Like a rock, he hid there and observed from afar. Indeed, not long after, a group of people appeared. They were from the heavenly locust tribe. Their leader was none other than Huang Fang. Others, don't get close. Those above the divine emperor realm. Go and destroy that shadow. Huang Fang ordered. As soon as Huang Fang's voice fell, two figures leapt towards Bai Gu like lightning. Swish swish they waved their hands, and their divine power condensed into claws that grabbed at the bone pearls. One of them was the divine emperor realm old man from before, and the other was the divine emperor, who had fought with the octopus earlier. The two divine emperors attacked at the same time. Roar. With a furious roar, the shadow under Bai Gu wriggled, turning into shadow javelins that pierced towards the two divine emperors. With a series of explosions, the attacks of the two divine emperors were blocked. Then, the shadow creature rapidly wriggled, enveloping an area of 100 li. The two sides engaged in a fierce battle. The shadow creature couldn't match the two divine emperors. Not long after, the shadow creature's shroud was broken. The shadow wriggled and returned to its original form. It was a creature with a single horn on its head. Roar. The creature roared, its baleful aura soaring to the sky. Sharp blades shot out from its horn towards the two divine emperors. At the same time, it also attacked the two divine emperors. Die. The two divine emperors also attacked. The two sides engaged in a fierce battle. The shadow creature was no match for the two divine emperors. It was at a disadvantage. However, the shadow creature's soul attack was terrifying. The two heavenly Acrypoid race god kings did not dare to be careless. They decided to play it safe and slowly suppress the shadow creature. When they reached a certain point, they would launch a fatal attack. In the blink of an eye, the two sides had exchanged dozens of blows. The shadow creature was completely at a disadvantage. It kept retreating. It seemed that the skeleton was about to leave the range of its protection. Roar. Suddenly, the shadow creature roared and pounced towards the divine emperor realm old man, ignoring its own defense. You're courting death. The divine emperor realm old man was not surprised, but delighted. He unleashed his full strength and slashed out with his saber. Boom. The saber slashed the shadow creature's body. A terrifying power exploded in an instant. The shadow creature's body was split into two and then exploded. However, before the old man could rejoice, the horn on the shadow creature's head shot out like a bolt of lightning and pierced the old man's chest. This attack was fast, incomparably fast. It was so fast that the old man didn't have time to react. The horn pierced through his body. The divine emperor realm old man roared and retreated. His body had been pierced through and was dripping with blood, especially his soul. It had been severely injured. His face was pale. Damned beast. The divine emperor realm old man roared. He didn't expect the shadow creature to attack him with such a heavy blow. However, the next moment his face turned even uglier. That shadow creature had been shattered by his blade, but at this moment, it actually reformed and reappeared. The saber attack didn't kill the shadow creature. However, it was obvious that the shadow creature wasn't in a good condition either. Its chi had weakened a lot. That meant that the saber attack wasn't harmless. Roar. The shadow creature roared and pounced towards the divine emperor realm old man like a phantom. The divine emperor realm old man's injuries were more serious than the shadow creature. It wanted to seize the opportunity to kill the divine emperor realm old man. However, it was obviously impossible. The heavenly Acrypoid race had another divine emperor. You're courting death. The other divine emperor roared and blocked the shadow creature's attack. Beast, you're courting death. The divine emperor realm old man roared and used his remaining strength to attack the shadow creature. The two sides fought fiercely again. Although the divine emperor realm old man was injured, the shadow creature was also injured. Its strength had weakened a little. Therefore, it was still at a disadvantage and was completely suppressed. After more than 10 moves, the shadow creature was hit, and its body exploded again. Its body kept twisting and turning. One could clearly see that its body had dimmed a lot. It's very weak now. Put in more effort and kill it. Huang Fang roared. Not long after, the shadow creature was hit again, and its body became even dimmer. Although the two divine emperors of the heavenly acrypoid race were also attacked by the shadow creature, their souls were also injured. The divine emperor realm old man's face became even paler. Chapter 37:26. Of the two divine emperors from the heavenly acrypoid race, the elder looked even paler. He had suffered a heavy blow from the shadow creature. Not only was his soul injured, but his physical body was also severely injured. The other divine emperor was in a much better state. His soul was only slightly affected during the battle with the shadow creature. His face was pale. However, the shadow creature was in a worse state. Its aura was getting weaker and weaker. There was no such thing as an immortal body in the world. Even if it was a forbidden body, it would die when all its cells were destroyed. Although the shadow creature's body was miraculous, it was getting weaker with every blow. If this went on, it would definitely die. Let's attack together and get rid of this beast. Huang Fang shouted. The shadow creature was already very weak. Even the quasi-emperors were able to injure it. He called for all the quasi-emperors to attack together and get rid of it once and for all. If other forces, especially the Frost Moon Vine race, were attracted, it would be difficult for him to devour the bone pearls. Kill! Kill! A large number of quasi-emperors from the heavenly acrypoid tribe shouted and pounced on the shadow creature. All kinds of attacks rained down on the shadow creature like a storm, covering all directions and completely blocking its escape route. The two divine emperors also attacked with their strongest attacks. They had to kill the shadow creature with this attack. Roar! The shadow creature roared. Its body suddenly dispersed and turned into hundreds of shadow javelins. They shot in all directions and collided with the attacks from the heavenly acrypoid race. However, it was much weaker now. The power of its attacks was also very average. When it collided with the attacks from the heavenly acrypoid race, the shadow javelins were constantly destroyed. The attacks from the two divine emperors destroyed a large number of shadow javelins. In just a few breaths of time, most of the shadow javelins had been obliterated, and the shadow creature could no longer condense. It was finally done. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. However, at this moment, something strange happened. All of a sudden, the skeleton moved. To be more precise, it exploded. All the bones were like sharp blades. They pierced toward the heavenly acrypoid race experts at an astonishing speed, bringing with them a terrifying whistling sound. Ah! Some of the quasi-emperors who were closer to it screamed in agony. Their bodies were pierced and they died on the spot. As for those further away, they were also hit with fatal attacks. As for the two god emperors, they received special attention. The most powerful bones and the white bone all flew towards the two god emperors. The people of the heavenly acrypoid tribe had just destroyed the shadow creature and heaved a sigh of relief. They did not expect that Bai Gu, who had been perfectly normal, would launch a fatal attack. Thus, it was already too late for them to dodge. Puff Puff the divine emperor realm old man was pierced by two sharp bones. He was sent flying tens of thousands of meters away, crashing into dozens of giant trees. He spat out blood and his body was badly damaged. Fortunately, the vitality of a divine emperor was extremely strong, and he managed to survive. As for the other divine emperor, his body was pierced by the horn. The horn was the most powerful and nailed the deity emperor to the ground. Damn it! This deity emperor roared angrily, erupting with all of his strength. Finally, he pulled out the horn, saving his life. However, he was also seriously injured, his aura becoming sluggish. As for those quasi-emperors, as long as they were hit, none of them could keep their lives. All of them died. In an instant, more than 50 quasi-emperors had died on the spot. Damn it! Farther away, Huang Fang was stunned. Then he roared angrily, his face contorted. So many experts had died in an instant. It was a heavy loss. Fortunately, it was only the quasi-emperors who had attacked. He and the other heavenly acrypoids were far enough away to avoid being attacked. Fortunately, after the first wave of attacks, the white bones fell to the ground and did not move at all. They also did not have any spirituality. As for the bone pearls, they also fell to the ground. Damned beast, it still wants to counterattack after dying. The God Emperor who had been pierced by the horn cursed. Clearly, the reason why the white bones had launched such a thunderous attack was because of the shadow creature. It knew that it would not be able to survive today. In the end it was destroyed, so it launched a final counterattack. Using some unknown method, it controlled the white bones to launch a fatal attack and deal a heavy blow to the heavenly acrypoids. Huang Fong was also cursing, but when he saw the bone pearls his eyes lit up. Although they had lost many experts, for a large race like the heavenly acrypoids, quasi-emperors were nothing. They had a bunch of them. Only god-emperors were considered experts. Losing a few quasi-emperors was not a big deal. They could be quickly nurtured. These bone pearls are mine. Huang Fong rushed over and grabbed the bone pearls with his huge hands. With these bone pearls, his cultivation would soon break through to the 7th layer of the Divine Lord Realm. He could even reach the 8th or 9th layer of the Divine Lord Realm. At that time, his status among the younger generation of the heavenly acrypoids would definitely rise. The other heavenly acrypoids did not move. Huang Fong's status was much higher than theirs. These opportunities naturally belonged to him. Lu Ming, who was a distance away, witnessed the entire scene. The two God Emperors are seriously injured. Especially the God Emperor Realm Elder. His injuries are even worse. Lu Ming thought, his eyes brightening. In the end, Lu Ming decided to make a move. This was a rare opportunity. If he did not make a move, when would he? Lu Ming concealed his aura to the extreme and stealthily approached the God Emperor Realm Elder. The God Emperor Realm Elder was sent flying far away after being hit by 2 bone pearls. He had just pulled out 2 bone pearls and swallowed a few divine pills to heal himself. He did not notice that someone was approaching. Soon, Lu Ming was only 10,000 meters away from the God Emperor Realm Elder. 10,000 meters was no different from 1 centimeter to them. Swoosh! Lu Ming did not hesitate and rushed over. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the God Emperor Realm Elder. When he rushed out, Lu Ming had already activated the battle character art to increase his fighting strength by 5 times. Boom! 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 Lu Ming burst out with all his strength and punched out with both fists. In an instant he punched out hundreds of times. His fist energy smashed through the air, causing the space to explode. Ah! The God Emperor Realm Elder sensed Lu Ming's attack the moment he saw it. He roared and unleashed his divine power to resist. The God Emperor Realm was indeed strong. His spiritual sense was sharp and his reaction speed was shocking. However, the God Emperor Realm Elder was severely injured. His strength was probably less than half of his usual strength. Lu Ming had just broken through to the 5th layer of the Divine Lord Realm. He was much stronger than when he fought with the God Emperor Realm Elder. At this moment, the Divine Emperor Realm Old Man couldn't withstand the surprise attack at all. Chapter 37-27. Bam! Bam! Their attacks collided. At the moment of collision, the Divine Emperor Elder's divine power was penetrated by Lu Ming. The Elder's palm blade collided with Lu Ming's fist. Crack! The Divine Emperor Realm Elder's palm exploded, followed by his arm and body. He screamed miserably. When Lu Ming's violent attack completely crushed him, the Divine Emperor Realm Elder's body exploded completely. Even his soul did not manage to escape. His body and soul were destroyed. A Divine Emperor was killed in an instant. Of course, Lu Ming would not have been able to do it if the Elder was in his prime. However, the Elder was severely injured and Lu Ming seized the opportunity to kill him. All of this happened in an instant. The other Heavenly Acrypoid tribe members did not even have time to react. When the Heavenly Acrypoid tribe Elder was killed, the Heavenly Acrypoid tribe members came to their senses and looked over. Then their eyes widened. "You are you?" Huang Fong shouted hysterically when he saw that the person who attacked was Lu Ming. "I will kill you today," Lu Ming said coldly. With a wave of his hand, he kept the Divine Emperor Realm Elder's storage ring and strode towards Huang Fong. "You still want to kill me? Attack, kill this brat!" Huang Fong shouted angrily. He had another divine emperor on his side. He was not afraid of Lu Ming. In his opinion, the elder at the divine emperor realm was killed because he was seriously injured and did not have much strength left. Then Lu Ming launched a sneak attack on him. That was why he was killed. He was well aware of Lu Ming's strength. Previously, he was chased by the divine emperor realm elder and was forced to flee. There was another divine emperor beside him. Although he was also injured, his injuries were not as severe. He was more than enough to deal with Lu Ming. Boom. The divine emperor suppressed his injuries and a powerful aura burst out, pressing towards Lu Ming. At the same time, he stepped into the void and rushed toward Lu Ming like a saber. His palm was like a saber, slashing toward Lu Ming. A dazzling saber light slashed out violently towards Lu Ming's head. The void was directly split into two halves. Come on! Lu Ming's eyes revealed an intense fighting spirit. His bones crackled like beans being fried. His muscles bulged as he punched out. It was a head-on confrontation. You're courting death. A vicious glint flashed across Huang Fang's eyes. Lu Ming dared to confront the Shenhuang head-on. He was simply courting death. Boom. In the next moment, the attacks of the two collided, and a violent explosion erupted. A violent force swept out in all directions, causing the ground to explode continuously. Then the two figures quickly retreated. At the same time, he retreated tens of thousands of meters. They were evenly matched. How could this be? Huang Fang and the rest of the heavenly Acrypoid tribe members stared wide-eyed at Huang Xiaolong. Lu Ming was able to contend with the divine emperor, and they were evenly matched. Although the Shenhuang was injured and his combat strength was greatly reduced, he was still a Shenhuang. In a head-on confrontation, he was blocked by a Shenhuang. This brat has broken through. Damn it, how did he break through so quickly? And his combat strength is so strong. Huang Fang roared in his heart. He was envious and jealous. The Shenhuang was also extremely shocked. His heart was in turmoil. However, the fighting spirit in Lu Ming's eyes grew stronger. A Shenhuang is indeed a Shenhuang. I used all my strength and the battle formula to increase my combat strength by 5 times. I barely managed to hold my ground. Moreover, he was injured. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. He knew very well that if the Shenhuang was in his prime, he would definitely be no match for him. But now kill! Lu Ming shouted and took the initiative to attack. In a flash, he crossed the distance of tens of thousands of meters and charged toward the Shenhuang. You're just a Shenhuang. The Shenhuang roared and his saber light shone brightly. Boom, boom, boom. The two sides engaged in an intense battle. In an instant, they had exchanged more than 10 blows, but there was no clear winner. This bastard. In the distance, Huang Fang was jealous, shocked, and frightened. He slowly moved back. Obviously, he was planning to run away as soon as he sensed that something was amiss. Lu Ming also saw this scene. Trying to run away? A cold glint flashed across Lu Ming's eyes. Then, while he was engaged in a fierce battle with the other party, he slowly turned his body around. When his body leaned towards Huang Fang's side, he exchanged a blow with the other party. With the help of this blow, he retreated rapidly in the direction of Huang Fang and the heavenly Acrypoid tribe. The reason why he hadn't used the string of stone beads was because he wanted to lower the God Emperor's guard. Secondly, if he killed the Shenhuang, the rest of the heavenly Acrypoids would definitely flee in fear. When that happened, it would be difficult for him to chase after them one by one. His goal was to kill all of the heavenly locust tribe members. Therefore, Lu Ming turned his body and borrowed the Shenhuang's strength to attack the heavenly Acrypoids. Oh no! The Shenhuang's expression changed drastically. Huang Fang's expression also changed drastically. Stop him! Huang Fang roared and retreated rapidly. The rest of the heavenly Acrypoids were also shocked. They were conflicted whether to block Lu Ming or retreat. If they blocked Lu Ming, they would be courting death if they went up against Lu Ming. However, if they retreated and ignored Huang Fang, they would be severely punished when they returned. It would be worse than dying in battle. In this moment of hesitation, Lu Ming had already arrived. Swoosh! Swoosh! Lu Ming waved his hand and launched a series of attacks. With Lu Ming's current strength, it was too easy for him to kill these quasi-emperors and divine sovereigns. Lu Ming charged forward and killed dozens of heavenly acrypoids. Then Lu Ming punched out continuously with both fists. In an instant he had thrown out hundreds of punches. Hundreds of punches blasted out in all directions. The heavenly acrypoids were unable to withstand a single blow. Every time he attacked, a heavenly acrypoid would be killed. There were more than 100 heavenly acrypoids left. In an instant, there were only a few left. No help. Huang Fong was so scared that he almost wet himself. He screamed in horror. He was not killed because Lu Ming had deliberately spared him. He was so scared that he roared as he ran. Lu Ming chased after him coldly. Stop. The Shun Huang roared and chased after him, slashing out a shocking saber light. However, Lu Ming was not afraid. He exchanged a blow with the Shun Huang and borrowed his strength to increase his speed. In an instant he had caught up to Huang Fong and the rest. With a swipe of his hand, the remaining heavenly acrypoids were killed. Huang Fong was fine, but he was so scared that he was trembling all over. His face was pale and a foul smell wafted out. He had actually wet himself. What a piece of trash. I'll send you on your way, Lu Ming said coldly. He had wanted to kill Huang Fong last. After he killed the Shun Huang, he would let Huang Fong know the meaning of despair. However, Lu Ming lost interest when he saw Huang Fong in such a state. With a swipe of his hand, Huang Fong let out a roar of indignation as his body exploded. His body and soul were destroyed. Chapter 37-28. The heavenly acrypoid race was left with only the Emperor God. The God Emperor stopped pursuing Lu Ming. He looked at Lu Ming coldly, his expression cold. Lad, you've killed so many people from the heavenly acrypoid tribe. Just wait for the endless revenge of the heavenly acrypoid tribe. Revenge? As long as I get rid of you, who will know that I killed them? Lu Ming asked with a smile. Ha, you still want to kill me? Although I am injured, do you think it is possible for you to kill me? If we continue fighting, you will be the one to die. The Emperor God said coldly, full of confidence. Although he was injured and his combat strength was not at its peak, he did not believe that Lu Ming could kill him. If they continued fighting, he would be the one to win. Is that so? Then let's fight. Lu Ming roared and pounced on the Emperor God. Kill. The divine emperor of the heavenly acrypoid race roared and charged towards Lu Ming. Boom. Boom. The two of them clashed again and fought fiercely. This time Lu Ming went crazy. He did not care about his own defense and attacked with all his might. Bam. Lu Ming was hit and a saber wound appeared on his body. His body was almost cut open. However, at the same time that Lu Ming was hit, the Emperor God was hit as well. Lu Ming landed a punch on the other party's shoulder. All kinds of secret skills erupted in his fist at the same time, forcefully tearing apart the other party's protective divine power and the body of a divine emperor. A large part of the other party's shoulder exploded. However, Lu Ming's injuries were recovering quickly. Again, Lu Ming roared and continued to attack the Emperor God. Not long after, Lu Ming was hit again. However, the Emperor God was hit as well. This was a lose-lose battle. This monster is really a monster. The Emperor God roared in his heart. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. Lu Ming's recovery ability was too strong. If this continued, the Emperor God would be the first to die, not Lu Ming. He was already thinking of retreating. As a result, his fighting spirit weakened. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the courageous will win. In a battle of equal strength, the weaker one's fighting spirit, the weaker one's fighting strength. Now, Lu Ming was keenly aware of the change in the other party's heart. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. The taboo energy poured into the stone bead. Wang. Lu Ming waved his hand and the two stone pearls flew up into the sky. The pearls grew bigger and bigger as they pressed down on the heavenly acrypoid deity emperor. The terrifying gravity caused the heavenly acrypoid race divine emperor's body to fall rapidly and crash heavily onto the ground. Then, the two stone pearls smashed towards the heavenly acrypoid race's god emperor like two mountains. The heavenly acrypoid race's deity emperor roared and attacked the stone pearls with all his might. Two of the stone pearls were sent flying away, but his palms were also cracked and blood flowed out. At the same time Shizhu attacked, Lu Ming had already charged towards his opponent. As soon as the stone pearls were pushed back, they were faced with Lu Ming's storm-like attacks. The heavenly Acrypoid race's deity emperor had not recovered from the series of attacks from the stone pearls. Moreover, his body was suppressed by the powerful gravity and his strength was severely restricted. He could not fight back at all. Bam! Lu Ming's left hand was like a sharp blade that broke through his defense and chopped off one of his arms. Lu Ming's right hand clenched into a fist and punched through the heavenly Acrypoid race's deity emperor's chest. His chest exploded and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The heavenly Acrypoid race's deity emperor had been smashed into the huge pit. When the pit exploded, he was blasted into the ground, creating a huge crater. He spat out large mouthfuls of blood and his body was in tatters. His aura was extremely weak. I can't accept this. I am a deity emperor. How can I die in the hands of a divine sovereign junior? He roared as if he had gone mad. The remaining divine power burned fiercely, and he transformed into his original form. He flapped his wings and tried to escape. However, the two stone pearls pressed down on him. The terrifying gravity caused him to fall to the ground. Bam! Lu Ming charged forward and stomped heavily on the heavenly Acrypoid race's deity emperor's chest. His chest exploded and only his head was left. Little bastard! The heavenly Acrypoid race's deity emperor was still shouting when Lu Ming punched him. The deity emperor's head exploded and his soul was destroyed. At this point, all the heavenly Acrypoids had been killed. Lu Ming's body flashed, and he kept all the interspatial rings. Then he went to the white skeleton. The bone pearls were scattered on the ground. Lu Ming collected them one by one. There were a total of 18 bone pearls of different sizes. They were filled with rich life energy. Lu Ming was satisfied. With these gains, this trip was worth it. Lu Ming moved and left the place. After a series of battles, he was afraid that others would be alerted. It was better to leave as soon as possible. Not long after Lu Ming left, people from the two forces arrived. When they saw the locust corpses all over the ground, they looked at each other in dismay. In the end, they looked horrified and retreated hurriedly. They thought that there was a terrifying danger here. Otherwise, how could the heavenly Acrypoid race be wiped out? Lu Ming found a secluded place and cultivated for a while. He adjusted his condition to the peak. He secretly sensed that the potential stored in his cells had decreased by a little. There was only about 10% left. As for his cultivation, it had also increased a little. The speed of energy consumption is too fast. Lu Ming sighed. He took out another divine herb and absorbed it. Lu Ming was too lazy to use monarch-level divine herbs. He kept them with him to trade with others. Lu Ming focused on absorbing emperor-level divine herbs. As his cultivation base increased, the potential stored in his cells required more energy. After refining 3 pieces of emperor-level divine medicine consecutively, Lu Ming increased the potential stored in his cells to 50%. In the past, I only needed 2 emperor-level divine herbs. Now I need 3. Sure enough, I don't have many emperor-level divine herbs left. Lu Ming thought. He only had 9 emperor-grade divine herbs left in his possession. Fortunately, he had obtained 18 bone pearls. The total energy of the 18 bone pearls was definitely above that of 9 emperor-level divine herbs. He could still use it for a while. With 50% stored, it was enough for the time being. With so much energy, even if he was beaten to a pulp, he could still recover. After finishing his cultivation, Lu Ming left the place. After checking the direction, Lu Ming headed west. Before entering the ruins of the heavenly Acrypoid race, he had learned from Jiang Libang that the greatest opportunity of the heavenly Acrypoid race was definitely in the capital of the heavenly Acrypoid race. The west direction was towards the depths of the heavenly Acrypoid race. The capital of the heavenly Acrypoid race should be in that direction. Lu Ming moved forward quickly. After an hour, he did not know how far he had traveled. Suddenly, boom, boom, boom. Violent explosions came from ahead. Divine light shone brightly, illuminating half the sky. There was an intense battle in front of him. Lu Ming restrained his aura and quickly approached along the ground. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.